Welcome to the Progress Zone podcast, where we help you create real momentum in your mindset, business, health, and life. I'm your host, Jody Donaldson, and every week we'll explore the small, intentional steps that lead to big, lasting growth. This isn't about hype, it's about habits. So let's get started. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Progress Zone podcast. I want to take you back to a specific moment in my life. I was sitting in my car in a parking lot, and I just made a decision that scared me more than almost anything I'd done up to that point. I had spent years building an identity. I had worked in law enforcement. I had served as a police officer. I'd worked as a public information officer. I had trained as a crisis and hostage negotiator. I had even spent time as a special agent with the FBI. That was who I was. That was the answer I gave when someone asked, "What do you do?" And more than that, it was how I saw myself. And I was about to walk away from a big piece of it to go do something completely different. Sitting in that car, I remember this voice in my head asking me, "Who are you if you're not this anymore?" If you've ever felt that fear of letting go of a version of yourself, even when you knew it was time, then stay with me today. Because I've learned something over the years that took me a long time to understand. And that is, you are allowed to reinvent yourself more than once, or as many times as your life requires. There's something we're all quietly taught, even if no one ever says it out loud, that at some point, you're supposed to figure it out. You pick your path, you choose your lane, you commit, and then you just stay there. You go to school for a thing, so you're supposed to do that thing. You build a career in an industry, so you're supposed to stay in that industry. Or you've become known for something, so you're supposed to keep being that person. And if somewhere along the way, you start to feel a pull towards something different, a lot of us treat that pull as a problem, as a sign that we messed up and that something is broken in us. I don't believe that pull is a problem at all. I think it's one of the most human, most healthy things there is. Think about it. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago. You've learned things, you've lived things, and you've grown. So why would we expect the decisions you made 10 years ago to still fit the person you are today? I mean, you wouldn't expect to wear the same clothes you wore a decade ago and have them fit perfectly. So why do we expect the life we chose a decade ago to still fit without any adjustment? We change, and our lives are allowed to change with us. Let me tell you a little bit more about my own road, not to talk about myself, but because somewhere in it, I think you'll see a piece of your own story. I started out in law enforcement and public safety, and that was my world. And I loved it. It shaped me. It taught me how to stay calm when everything around me was chaos. It taught me how to talk to people in the worst moments of their lives. And if you'd asked me back then, I would have told you this was my forever. But life had other plans, as it usually does. Along the way, I started a real estate business, and I ran that business for 2 decades, over 20 years. For a lot of that time, I was doing more than one thing at once, wearing more than one identity at once. Then the real estate market crashed in 2008, and that crash forced a change I didn't choose. So I moved back into public sector work and led a communications department for a police department in the DC market. And catch this part, that wasn't a step backward, even though at the time, part of me worried that it was. It was just another chapter, another version of me, and it kept going. I ultimately went back into real estate. I moved into corporate leadership. Then a global pandemic hit, and I found myself leading communications for one of the largest humanitarian organizations in the country during the hardest season most of us have ever lived through. Then my family and I made a big move, leaving Northern Virginia and relocating to North Carolina for a role I never could have predicted I'd have. And more recently, I became a business owner in the fitness world. But here's the interesting part about that one. It wasn't brand new territory at all. Early on in my career before law enforcement, I worked in a health club as a certified personal trainer. So in a strange way, that chapter wasn't just a new beginning. It was a return. Something from the past came all the way back around. Now, here's what I need you to hear in all of that. It was not a straight line. It was not some clean, planned path from point A to point B. Some of those things and those changes I chose. Some of them life chose for me. A market crashed. A pandemic hit. Doors were open and doors were closed. And at every single one of those turns, I had to answer the same question I asked you at the start. Do I cling to the version of myself that made sense yesterday? Or do I have the courage to become what today is asking of me? If reinvention is so natural, why do so many of us resist it so fiercely? I've thought about this a lot, and I think it comes down to 3 fears. The first is that we tie who we are to what we do. We say things like, I am a police officer, or I am a realtor, or I am a business executive. But notice the language. Not, I work in law enforcement, I work in real estate, but I am. We fuse our identity to our title. So when it comes time to change that title, it doesn't feel like changing a job. It really feels like losing yourself. But here's the truth I had to learn sitting in that car years ago. You are not your title. You are the person underneath it. The title? Well, that's just a container you're pouring yourself into right now, and you're allowed to pour yourself into a new one. The second fear is what other people will think. When you reinvent yourself, people notice, and some of them, they just won't get it. You'll hear, wait, I thought you did this, or why are you doing that now? What is it you're doing? And that judgment, whether it's real or just imagined in your own head, it keeps a lot of people frozen. Staying in a life that no longer fits just to avoid having to explain themselves to people who were never living their life anyway. And the third fear, this is the big one. We think that if we change directions now, then everything we did before was wasted. That all those years I spent doing the other thing were for nothing. That reinvention means throwing away everything you've built. But I want to spend a real minute on this one because I think it's the lie that keeps most people stuck in lives they've already outgrown. So here's what I know to be true. Nothing you have done is wasted, not a single thing. Every chapter you've lived comes with you into the next one. You don't leave it behind, it only compounds. Let me make this real for you. The skills I learned as a negotiator, reading people, staying calm under pressure, communicating when the stakes were life and death. Well, those didn't vanish when I left law enforcement. They only made me a better business leader. They made me better in every difficult conversation I've had since. The discipline and relationships I built over 20 years in real estate, that made me a better executive. The communication skills I sharpened over an entire career, they show up in everything I do now, including this conversation with you right now. Do you see what I'm saying? I did not start over each time. I built on top of everything that came before. And that's what I want you to understand about your own life. When you reinvent yourself, you are not erasing your past. You are taking everything it taught you and you're carrying it forward into what's next. So if you're sitting there right now thinking it's too late for me, or I've put too much time into this path to change now, I want you to flip that thought completely on its head. Because everything you've invested is not a reason you can't change. It's exactly what you get to bring with you when you do. It is not sunk cost. It is your foundation. Look, I know reinvention can sound romantic, but it can also feel terrifying. And I'm not here to tell you to walk into your boss's office tomorrow and quit or to blow up a life you've already worked so hard to build. Reinvention does not have to be reckless. In fact, the smartest reinventions I've lived and witnessed were rarely dramatic leaps. And there are 3 things I've learned about this. The first is that you can build the next chapter while you're still in the current one. Remember, I ran a business for 20 years while holding other roles. I explored what was next while my current chapter was still paying the bills and grounding my family. You do not have to burn the boat to build a new one. You can start small, quietly, on the side, in the margins of your evenings and weekends. Because most real invention begins long before anyone else can even see it. The second is to get clear on what actually transfers. Look underneath your job title at the deeper skills you've built. Not, I just sell houses or I know how to close, but I build trust and I build relationships. Not, I work in law enforcement, but I stay calm under pressure and I lead people through crisis. Those deeper skills are portable. They go everywhere you go. They are the thread that connects every chapter of your life, even the ones that look completely different on the surface. And the third might be the most important. Give yourself permission, because most people are quietly waiting for someone to tell them it's okay to want something new. So let me be that person for you right now. It's okay. It's okay to have a loved chapter of your life and still be ready to close it. It's okay to really be good at something and still want something different. And it's okay to reinvent yourself at 30, at 45, at 60, at any age you're listening to this. You do not owe the rest of your life to a decision you made when you were younger, with less wisdom, with less experience, and less clarity than you have right now, today. You are not one thing. You never were. You are the sum of everything you've learned, everywhere you've been, and everyone you've had the courage to become along the way. And you are not finished. You get to keep growing. You get to keep evolving. And you get to reinvent yourself as many times as your life asks you to. Because the people who thrive over the long run are not the ones who pick one path and freeze there forever. They're the ones who stay open, who keep learning, who have the courage to become something new when the moment calls for it. So here's the honest question underneath all of this. Is there a part of you that's ready to become something new that you've been too afraid to admit? You don't have to act on it today. You don't have to have the whole plan figured out. You just have to be honest enough to admit that it's there, because that honesty is where every reinvention begins. I think back to that guy sitting in his car in the parking lot, scared, certain he was about to lose himself. He had no idea that letting go of who he was would be the thing that let him become everything he is now. He just had the courage to take that step anyway. And thank God he did. You have that same courage in you. I promise you do. Folks, if this spoke to you, pass it along to someone standing at a crossroads right now, someone quietly wondering if it's too late to become who they're meant to be. Please let them know it's not too late. And remember, progress isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, taking action, and getting just a little bit better every single day. We'll see you next time inside the Progress Zone. Thanks for joining me in the Progress Zone. If today's episode gave you a spark, share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave a quick review. And remember, progress isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. I'm Jody Donaldson, and I'll catch you next time inside the Progress Zone.